Ladies and nerds, patch notes. What's up, nerds? Lots of balancing changes to go over, from heroes to minions to, well, just heroes and minions. But let's not waste any time, let's jump right in. First and foremost, the much needed Rag Nerf. Two changes to his hero power. It now takes 25 enemy minion kills to activate the hero power, and now it only gives +3/+3 in buffs, instead of +4/+4. Definitely a nerf, but not a huge one. Pre-nerf, your hero power would typically come online turn 6 or turn 7. Now it'll be turn 7 or turn 8 probably. This will make the mid-game a bit more balanced. Typically Rag would stay out of control before the lobby even got to Tavern 4 on turn 7. But honestly, I thought they would make it 30 and make it an extra 2 turns, essentially making it so the entire lobby is at least at Tavern 4 before his hero power comes online. But they also reduced the buff by +1/+1, taking it down to +3/+3. Again, not a huge nerf, but one that will slow down the insane scaling power of Rag. So now it'll take an extra turn to get his hero power online, and once it's online, it'll scale a bit less. Overall, I still think he'll be an S tier hero. I don't think this will drop Rag out of that category, but it's fine if he remains one of the strongest heroes. Just as long as he's corralled back into acceptable levels. A sub 3.0 average placement stat is just stupidly broken. Hopefully this brings him up around like Jandice and Maiev levels. I'm not convinced it will though. He may still be the strongest hero by a wide margin. And on to Maiev. A change to the buff her hero power gives minions. Now you only get +1 attack, and no longer will give +1 in health as well. I actually like this change a lot. It'll make it harder for Maiev to build a strong board in the early game, making her a bit more of a high roll hero. But, I mean, if you do survive the early game, the +1 health doesn't mean anything anyway. The hero power gets value from the gold economy that's created, not the stat buff. So overall, Maiev sees a small nerf, but nothing too huge. I do find it a bit strange that they nerfed Maiev, but left Jandice untouched. Or did they? Hold that thought because we'll talk about that in a bit. Alright, Shen. Change to his hero power to where now after you buy 3 elementals, the cost of upgrading Bob's Tavern is reduced by 3, where it was only reduced by 2 before this patch. I still don't think it'll help him that much. This does make power leveling a bit easier for him now, and in the current meta, power leveling is really how you win games, but any hero that has a tribe specific hero power is mid tier at best. So yes, this helps him, but I don't see him moving up beyond most of the B tier heroes. He'll probably be around similar power levels to like Ysera, Pyramid, and Alexstrasza. And then Patchwork. He now starts with 55 health up from 50. It'll help, but he's way too boring to play, so I'll never pick him anyway. In Sindragosa, you now get +2/+1 in stats when you freeze a minion at the end of your turn, up from +1/+1, so the additional 1 attack. Yes, it'll help, but it doesn't really address the issue with Sindragosa. After about turn 5 or 6, you get very little value from the hero power. You typically don't want to be freezing boards unless it's for a triple or maybe a strong buff card, which you're just going to throw away. So I was hoping to see a change to the hero power. You could target a specific minion and freeze it, and that minion gets +2/+2 in stats. Something along those lines. That way you don't freeze the entire shop, you still get the benefit of a mostly refreshed board, and it gives you a more beneficial buff. And then a sneaky little change to Mukkala. There is a chance of getting a big banana when you hero power, and that big banana gives a minion +2/+2. I still love Mukkala, he's not great, and I don't expect this change to help him much, but hey, I'll continue to pick him for meme's sake. So big news on the hero front is the Rag Nerf. A lot of minor changes, let's call them tweaks to other heroes, but nothing too impactful. On to minions. 2 have been removed from the Battlegrounds. Whirlwind Tempest, which is just whatever for me, I rarely picked him up anyway. But also Pogo Hopper. No more Pogos, ladies and nerds. So when I said they left Jandice untouched, well, they didn't. Pogo and Jandice were just annoying together. A Jandice game with mechs was basically a guaranteed high place finish. Pogos were a tier 2 minion, you really only needed one and it would get massive in size. But now with no more Pogos, Jandice needs to focus on buff cards and things like swapping out a Hydra with a Mama Bear to scale. No more brain dead Pogo play. Jandice will actually require you to think moving forward. And then Selfless Hero is now a tier 2 minion, and Deadly Spore is now a tier 5 minion. With elementals being so strong right now, it also means that tech cards are also strong. So moving both of these up to the next tavern tier will mean there are less of them in the pool overall, which means less chances to find them, which means it makes it harder to find these tech cards that are often needed to counter other players' builds. Both of these nerfs make sense. I don't think it affects Selfless Hero too much though, you'll still see golden Selfless Heroes all over the place in your games. And there are a few pirate changes. Salty Looter is now a 4-4, Bloodsail Cannoneer is now a 4-3. I feel like both of these are long overdue. Pirates have been underwhelming basically since their release, so these were long overdue buffs. And Salty Looter really should have been a 4-4 from the start, putting its stats in par with other units that scale on tier 3, like Crowd Favorite and Hangry Dragon. And then a lot of changes to elementals. A few stat buffs, Party Elemental gets +1 attack, and Arcane Assistant gets +1 health. I don't think either of these were really needed. I worry a bit about early game elementals getting stronger because elementals are so strong in the end game, but maybe they address end game elemental builds as well. Spoiler alert, Major Domo with a slight buff, he now gives +1/+1 even if no elementals are bought. So a good change. This card was pretty bad before, but now it gives you a guaranteed scaling each turn. This change will definitely help this card see a bit more play. And finally, onto the big changes. Lil Rag is now a tier 6 minion and is a 6/6 in stats, and Gentle Genie is now a tier 5 minion with 4/5 in stats. So address endgame elementals they did. This feels more in line with the relative power level of both cards. Genie never felt like a true tier 6 minion. His death rattle was more for the value provided by the elemental going into your hand rather than the elemental being spawned during combat. So now you can grab Genie earlier in the game and utilize the value generating aspect of the minion more consistently. And Lil Rag. Now this is a card that felt like a tier 6 minion. An early Lil Rag was basically like an early Bran, except it had a tribe, so you could also scale him, unlike Bran. So moving him up to tier 6 means elemental builds take a big but appropriate hit. You'll no longer be able to get those turn 7 early Rags and scale out of control. This means you'll have to play elementals a bit slower and maybe work cards like Party Elemental and Major Domo into your builds more often. So some good changes overall. The two strongest heroes, Rag and Jandice, both received nerfs. Pirates got some small buffs, tech cards got nerfed, and elementals got, let's say balanced. I don't want to say nerfed. So overall, much needed balance changes to the Battlegrounds. Hopefully we'll be seeing a little less elemental builds and a little more pirate builds moving forward. But that'll do it for me. Good luck in your games. Hopefully you won't get run over by elementals. Hopefully you'll be able to scale with pirates a bit easier moving forward. Godspeed, nerds.